Let's talk about the freedom of the press. You and I, veterans of the Fleet Street business. I know Dave Dillon a little bit. He's the editor of the Mail on Sunday. He's been around a long time. He did the right thing, as I suggested yesterday, by just turning down Sir Lindsay Hoyle's ludicrous kind of, headmasterly summons to say, you must come and see me to explain. Why should he? He doesn't have to.
Exactly right. For my mind, the only sort of slightly disappointing thing is that the Mail on Sunday didn't say no at the outset. What's it got to do with Lindsay Hoyle, what the Mail on Sunday editor decides to put into his newspaper? We're not discussing whether or not we approve of that story about Angela Rayner deliberately crossing and uncrossing her legs to titillate and put the Prime Minister off at question time. It's not a discussion about whether or not we like that story or we feel that story is fair to Angela Rayner or even Boris Johnson. It's about the right of an editor to decide what goes into his newspaper. And I've got bad news for Sir Lindsay Hoyle. It has got nothing to do with him whatsoever, and his imperious summons to Westminster to discuss this to the Mail on Sunday editor and the political editor Glenn Owen was totally wrong. Now, subsequent to this invitation, which they accepted, Lindsay Hoyle starts going on about this story being offensive and misogynistic. And so quite rightly, David Dillon, the editor, said, well, you've already made up your mind. You said you wanted to discuss this story, and now you're telling me it's prejudiced and it's misogynistic and you don't like it. So why should we come to just be told off by you? It's got nothing to do with you.
That's right. And he issued a statement yesterday where he claims that he is a staunch believer in the press freedoms that they have. And when he was asked to remove the pass of a sketch writer last week, he said no. But he also then turned it around and made it about let's all just be a little bit kinder. Well, I don't want people to be kind, frankly. I quite like people not being kind, particularly when it comes to public discourse about politicians.
Yeah, exactly. It's not nursery school. Oh, can't we all be a bit kinder?
Yes.
Oh, shut up. That's pathetic. Absolutely pathetic.
It really is. I mean, it is.
And by the way, Mike, this story now has been corroborated. They did have one Tory MP, unnamed, telling them about the story in the first place. Subsequent to this row, it has been corroborated by 3 other MPs who were in the conversation on the House of Commons terrace by the River Thames the other week. And also, Angela Rayner has spoken about it herself in a podcast that was filmed on a West End stage where she told the audience all about the basic insect syndrome and how she was accused of uncrossing her legs and crossing them strategically. Of course, she denies it, but she talked about that to Matt Ford on a podcast back in January.
Right.
So this story, in terms of veracity and being a story that is publishable and true, is perfectly okay.
Well, that's right. And also, it turns out that back in, I think, last year sometime, the story about this very same thing, and with a mention of Sharon Stone, was written about. Media Guido picked this up. Guido Fawkes' website picked this up and put it out, I think, yesterday, where I think it was Amanda Platel, also from the Mail, who had written a column about Angela Rayner's legs and what she does with them and how it's all very sort of reminiscent of that scene in Basic Instinct. So, I mean, even the story itself has been written before, so I don't know why they're all getting quite so worked up.
I mean, but Angela Rayner has told it herself on a public West End stage to an audience.
Right. Right.
That was in January.
I know.
So the idea that the Mail on Sunday have plucked this story from nowhere is absolutely untrue. So the reason Sir Lindsay Hoyle, his high and mighty Mr. Speaker of the House, summons the editor of a national newspaper and his political editor to his office, was because the Speaker did not like this story. Well, tough luck.
Yeah.
We're not here to print stories that Sir Lindsay Hoyle likes. We're not here to print stories that anybody in particular likes. We're not there to produce newspapers full of nice news that people approve of. That's not what we do.
Well, you might remember this as well as I do when we used to do those focus groups at the Mirror. where people would be sort of sat in a little room and we would watch them being quizzed about whatever it was that they liked and didn't like about the paper. And the biggest question that they always wanted to answer was, what would you like to see in the paper? And people would say, oh, we'd like some good news, please. And you'd go, and what do you see as good news? What is that? And they couldn't tell you. They don't know what good news is. They don't like good news, actually. People like bad news, which is why you and I have thrived in this business for such a long time, because you are the master of bad news, are you not?
Well, yeah, you and I, yeah, of course, because we're Fleet Street journalists. That's what Fleet Street journalists do. And what we know, as you quite rightly say, Mike, that if you ask people what they'd like to see in their newspapers, they'll say, happy news, nice news. They'd like to see them nice stuff. Why is it all so depressing? Well, if you actually do what they say and you fill your newspaper full of nice, happy news, no one will buy it.
Yeah.
They don't actually like nice, happy news. They like depressing, bad, angry news.
Yes.
That's what they like.
What was that awful? Do you remember that awful paper they started? It was after we both left. It was certainly after I left. That came out every night, and it was meant to be good news only. And it was only about 4 days before they had somebody starving of something on the front cover from Africa, and it was kind of like, well, that doesn't look like very good news to me.
Yeah,
but it was,
right.
Do you remember that? I can't remember that. We can't remember what the paper was called.
It was a Mirror Group.
It was a Mirror Group publication. Was it the New Day or something like that?
Yeah, it was the Day or something like that.
Yeah.
It lasted about 9 weeks. And as you quite rightly say, Mike, it kicked off by doing, here's lots of happy people.
Yeah.
Here's positive news. And within about a week, all the happy, positive stuff had gone as that newspaper desperately struggled to survive fail.
The best news of all was when they shut it.
That was a good, happy day. Yeah,
great stuff.
That rubbish.
Now, let's talk a bit about privatising the Passport Office, because Boris Johnson was in this very building yesterday talking to Tom Newton-Dunn on his show on TalkTV last night. Let's have a listen to what he had to say.
Well, I don't care whether an institution is in the private or public sector. I just want it to deliver value.
So you might.
And I want it to deliver value and a good service.
Privatisation.
I'm not going to rule, Tom, I'm not on your august show going to rule anything out.
He's not going to rule anything out. Of course, this has sent the left into a spiral of despair because they're saying that it's obviously code for privatising the NHS, but he's actually talking about the Passport Office.
Yes, but the Passport Office, also the DVLA, the Driving Licence Centre as well. These are two government offices that have ceased to do their job because no one is turning up for work. So if the Prime Minister is serious and he's going to tell the thousands of employees who are refusing to do their government job, if you don't do it, we'll privatise you, we'll get rid of you, then happy days. About time. He's got to get tough with these people. These civil servants have to be told, if you don't turn up to work, you are fired. Because they've got to get back into the office. We've got to get everyone back into the office. We've got to get everyone back at work, because working from home is pernicious. It's bad culture. Let us not delay as productive as people who don't. It's a delusion, and it suits them because they don't want to get on the train in the morning and they want to watch lots of Netflix and take the dogs out. Yeah. So let's not kid ourselves about working from home. If they don't turn up, they're sacked. And also the government should be leading the way with this. You know, there are lots of private companies who've got big problems getting their staff back to work after COVID. And if the government's not going to get its staff back to work, how are private companies going to do it?
Exactly right. And one of the things I said to Anne Widdecombe this morning, who I was rather surprised at, was much in favour of people working from home, is that if they're in receipt of some kind of London waiting allowance for being civil servants working in London, but they're not bothering to do that anymore, then they should have it taken off them, shouldn't they?
100%. But I'd go further than that. As you don't take London waiting, you can carry on doing your job in Canterbury. I'd go further than that and say, look, your job contract requires you. You've dismissed yourself. You're out of here.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. Let's go Saturday night. We're on from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Never seen before. Could we give them a hint about?
You and I are accomplished artists. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're gonna do what we call draw the news. We're gonna artist misimpression. So you and I, at the beginning of every show, will begin a project, and our story. We won't tell each other what they are, and we won't tell the viewers, obviously. Create this news story that we've drawn, and then we'll each other and to the viewers and see
through the sort of star-studded arena guests on. We're going to have lots of little funny public. We're also going to try and get people to cheer you up a bit, because we've decided I can't.
Come up, mate. Well, you can. You buy me lots of drink. That really cheers me up. So you've done that on occasion.
Yes, it's very true. I've also been thrown out of your very esteemed. Maybe we should try and do that every Saturday night after the show. See if I can get thrown out.
Kev, chuck out Mike. There you go.
Exciting. And you've also got a show on Sunday as well. We'll talk about that, of course. With you, 7 o'clock Saturday night. Don't miss it. It's going to be a belter.